I guess I have seen him when I was watching the Flash show, right? I didn't like him then. Then again, he was the villain, right?
I did my job.
He did your job, so that worked. Okay, for those of you who haven't read it, I'm going to read it to you. The description in the program. Actor Chad Rook is an Alberta native, a fellow Canadian.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, right? That's right.
But it says, hot off his role as the weather wizard in the new TV series The Flash. I hate when they use last names only. Mr. Rook, who will also appear in another CW Network comic book adaptation still to come, says iZombie, has also appeared in the series such as Supernatural, Bates Motel, Cult, J.J. Abrams' Alcatraz, The Secret Circle, and Sanctuary. The talented Mr. Rook can also count several modeling, oh boy, writing, and directorial credits among his ever-growing Hollywood resume. When I said this panel is about, a series of panels about to take a little turn, while you're performing in comic book television and probably movies, you are a performing artist as opposed to a drawing artist or a writing artist. Although you are a writer too, are you not?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Good. Maybe you could talk about those things.
Of course. Yeah, so as you were saying, that's quite the intro. Yeah, so I was on The Flash, as you probably, that's what you're here for probably, or Supernatural. And like you're saying, we're a new series coming out in January called iZombie, which is another DC Comics adaptation. And then I'm heading to Brazil next month to film a new series called Rio Heat, which is about the politics of World Cup soccer. So I'm getting a little bit away from the villain stuff finally in that role. Actually, iZombie is my 8th CW show, so they've been very good to me. Fortunately, they only ever see me as the villain. I don't get it. I just, even for The Flash, actually, they had me first audition for Flash, and then they had me audition for Eddie Cobb, and then they had me audition for the villain Weather Wizard. So I slowly went down from nice to, no, we don't see him as a nice guy.
Chad, how are your fans going to not recognize you as the Weather Wizard? Are you going to change drastically?
Yeah, so, well, I mean, the thing is with the Weather Wizard, a lot of people were kind of wondering about, you know, he got killed off very fast in there, but I think there's a golden rule with DC, if you never see a body, you don't count him out full and stuff. And I'm still working, so we'll see what happens with Flash down the road. I'm pretty excited with it, so, but there's going to be different adaptations of the Weather Wizard, I think, coming up, and whether I'm involved directly or not, I'll keep watching it. So, yeah.
I wanted to ask you, and I'm sure somebody will probably ask you, but I'll ask you anyways. You've been upstairs for the last 3 or 4 hours. What do you think about all this comic book craze that's going on?
Well, I actually, about a year and a half ago, I've been acting now for 15 years, and up until a year and a half ago, when I got Flash, until you're on a show that's convention oriented, you don't go to these conventions. You don't get invited, no matter how big you are. Jesse Martin, who plays the Flash, he was in Law and Order for over 10 years. He just went to his first convention last year, because it's not a show like that. So I was actually there, sitting there a year and a half ago. I would pay to go to the conventions and stuff, so I'm like a fan as well. So I was kind of familiar with the actual scene, but to be on the other side of the table was really crazy, because a year and a half ago, I flew to Calgary to get the Walking Dead autographs from Norman Reedus and stuff. And then 2 months ago, we get to hang out with them in the green room in Austin, Texas. So it's a little change of pace, and no, they didn't remember who I was at all. I was like, I met you. I'm like, yeah, right.
This is a little off the map. I'm going to ask you your opinion, okay? Many comic books, I'm going to use the Joker as an example, I'm going to use the Punisher as an example, are presenting villains, bad guys, as heroes. Is that a good thing to present to young people like this lad right here?
Oh, I think so. The reason I actually play villains is because I only play and go out for characters. I refuse to play a normal guy. That's not what I got into acting for. I never got into playing myself. And that's why I think with CW it's always villains who I play, because that's who I audition for. My agent won't even give me a role that's not a normal guy. And I was raised on horror films and stuff like that, so as a kid, I actually like those characters. I don't know, I think it's more of a creative thing. It's not so much making them a hero as opposed to making them a standout character, like they do with the superheroes.
So you have not been psychologically damaged by reading that stuff?
Not that I know, but no. I don't know. I really lead to the villain all the time. It's always the judging of a show to me, if it's good or not, is if the villain is comparable with the guy. You look at shows like Dark Knight, Terminator 2. These are shows that stand out to me because the villain is almost more badass, if not badder than, or cooler in this way than the actual hero itself. So I like when they take the villain characters who are really creative and they put them in the spotlight more so than the big guy.
Sure. As you can tell, I'm a little bit older than yourself, and I've been collecting comic books since I was very young. When comic books were still 10 cents and 12 cents, and lo and behold, it went to 15 cents and then to 20 cents. Amazing. Where the hell was I going with this? I actually forgot.
Comic book.
I gotta check that out. Yeah.
Start with the old man.
I just wanted to ask you if you thought that, there was a time when there was a little white stamp in the corner of every comic book called the Comics Code Authority, which was a control factor, an internal industry control factor, but it's no longer there. It hasn't been for 3, 4, 5 years, at least, if not more. Is it possible for comic books to go too far with gratuitous violence, maybe even sexuality and so forth? Can they go over to the top?
There's, when I got Flash, I wasn't a big Flash fan, to be honest with you, so I had to read up on the comics and the characters. So when I read, I was actually pretty surprised at how much deaths and violence, and my character was creating tornadoes in someone's stomach, and they explode, and I was like, it's a cool character, but it was like, 5-year-olds kids, anyone can buy this comic, and I think it's just like anything, I think it's just like going to films or movies or anything, all that type of perspective. It's really in the hands of the parents, I think, to moderate what they're reading.
The 3 people who were on this panel before you, they were sitting right next door to you, Jason Fabok and the Finches. They came to a conclusion with that kind of a question that you have the freedom to go over the television or pick up the remote and shut it off if you don't like it. It's not good for you or the people who you're with. So the same thing true with comic books. You buy what appeals to you because you spend money on it, obviously. Parents have a responsibility to control what their kids are reading.
But you know what, there's good and bad to all this. I mean, you could have a character, a comic like Flash and stuff, and people, think that's violent or bad, and then you have stuff like My Little Pony, and then you have bronies. So, what is good and what is bad? I mean, it's really up to the person themselves, how far they're going to take it. So I can't really comment on whether or not it's a bad thing to have it.
Well, there is another dimension to it, and that's what I want to explore with you as a performing artist, and that is the freedom of expression. The freedom of expression in terms of the writer, the artist, the producer, the production people. Even you as a performing artist, there's a certain degree of interpretation that you're bringing to the screen. There's a freedom involved in that, right?
Yeah, well, it depends on the character as well. Clyde Martin in Flash, the Weather Wizard, he was never portrayed on TV or film ever before, so I kind of had a blank slate with him. And being the first villain of a TV series kind of gives you that, you get a set bar type thing. And I watch every week to see who's better than me. It's kind of cool when you get a character that you get to create from scratch. And if you look at people like Clyde Martin, and everything from the accent to the movements, they all have a reason in that. And I'm a huge WWE fan, like a wrestling guy. I always have been. And for those of you who know wrestling, there's a guy named Bray Wyatt who's a wrestler right now. And if you watch him and you watch Clyde Martin, there's a lot of similarities in his characters. And everything from yokel, accent, it's cool when you create those things because it actually gives the perspective to the audience as to why he's doing what he's doing. If I came in there with a pompous English accent, it really wouldn't explain the farm boy feel as opposed to that yokel accent, right? The movements, if you look at Clyde Martin, I do weird movements like this. That actually generated from the audition process because what they do in superhero shows, a lot of people don't know, is it's really under wraps because superhero fans, you give them aid and they have a whole alphabet. So you have to be careful what you give out. So when they give us audition sides, they actually make up characters. So I wasn't actually reading for the Weather Wizard. I was auditioning for a guy who controlled fire. And when I went into the audition, I made this character who had fire running through him, so he would do these weird movements. And I could have gone very good or very bad fastly because it looked like I was having a seizure in the room, right? And thank God the director got it, but they liked it so much that when they told me it was Weather Wizard, they wanted me to keep the movement. So every little aspect of that has an origin as to why they do it. So it's fun to create.
So no, if we're going to restrict creativity, we would never have a Pablo Picasso or a Claude Monet, would we?
That's right.
Right. Okay, I wanted to ask you, in your future you have iZombie. You have an agent, right, who acts on your behalf?
4 agents.
4 agents?
I have 3 booking agents in one town.
Wow. I asked the question because I'm a writer. I write poetry and I write novels. And some of what I write I have to self-publish. I have no agent. How important it is for you to have an agent to act on your behalf? Because
well, it's everything. It gets you in the room, it gets you the auditions. I actually fired 5 agents before I got my current agent, who I've actually been with for a long time now.
why?
I think it's that main starting partnership in the industry. If they don't give me the roles and the auditions, I should say, it's my job to get the role, but if they don't give me the auditions for the types of characters and stuff that I want to do and set a path for the career that I want to do, there's no point in me having them around. I found early on in this industry that the more time you waste, you're doubling the amount of time and chances of you not making it in this industry. So it's very important to have that key member, and the agent is the guy that gets me in the room and gets me those opportunities. And so it's everything.
Great. Thanks for being so candid. I appreciate it. Here's your chance now to grill our guest. Okay, this is the segment. This is grill our guest. There's a live microphone right over there. I would appreciate your questions for Chad. Come forward, use the mic so that everybody can hear your question. Would you please?
Let's do it. Hi, Rook.
You said that when you audition, you did it for someone with fire. How does that change when they tell you that, okay, he's not fired, he's weather now?
No, it
How's that process?
The Flash audition process was hell. Literally, there was 7 auditions over 2 months. And this was, keep in mind, this is my 7th CW show, so they know me, right? And they still put me through the ringer. And then when you finally get the role, and then they tell you, okay, now all the 7 auditions you just did, you're not playing that character. It's kind of a curveball, but when I find out I was some guy who controls fire to a guy who's going to be walking in the middle of a tornado, you reply with a smile, is what you do, right? And it really just depends though on those shows. I remember I read for Tron, the movie Tron, and their auditions were asides from Indiana Jones. So it's kind of a weird process because they just don't want scripts out there. So you kind of just take it, and you're so thrilled when you actually get a role because this industry is crazy hard. You get 100 to 300 auditions a year, and you end up with maybe 1 to 5 roles, depending on it. So there's a lot of rejections. When you get it, yes, you don't really care who it's on.
Chad, is your welfare ever at risk when you're filming stuff?
Not now, but there was a lot of really hard times with acting. Juggling 9 to 5 jobs and stuff is not easy. I actually got fired a lot of times for going to auditions too many times, and then to try to find a job with a manager who allowed you to go to auditions, because auditions are right in the middle of your work hours, and it's really hard. They don't audition on weekends. They don't do it at night, and so to find a job that allows you, managers and stuff to do that, it's pretty surreal. So, and it's a hard job.
I understand, sir.
Okay. 2 quick questions.
Yeah.
for you. One, you said that you didn't really follow The Flash when you got the role.
Yeah.
What comics did you follow as a youngster? Number 2, with the crossover episode that just came by, how much would you like to be on Arrow so you can show Stephen Amell how to do the salmon ladder?
You know what? There's always only room really for one green guy, and I would love to take on Arrow. Actually, the thing in mind with conventions is that every time I actually see a green arrow at a convention, I take photos of me killing them, and then I post online. And if you look at my Instagram, there's tons of photos of me with all these poor fans in arrow outfits, me killing them somehow. I took one today. Actually, he's just in the back. I took a photo of me killing him. But I would love to take Arrow. As for Flash, I was raised as a Batman guy. I was always a huge fan of the Joker. I draw as well, and I used to draw Venom all the time. Iron Man is my favorite superhero, so I was kind of growing. It was back and forth between Marvel and DC, but Flash was. It's funny that I play a villain on Flash because I always used to think he was a pansy. And it's funny that now I fight him. So I'm not being a bully, I just say Flash was always that guy who runs fast. Yeah.
Sir?
You said you really don't like to play the normal type of guy. With the rise of comic book TV shows, comic book movies, stuff like that, does that help you pick out roles better and stuff?
Yeah, well, again, with my agent and I, we have everything. I don't even go for an audition if it's not a character, and that's why I think I've almost built up a whole career now playing villains, because a lot of these shows, those type of characters that I read for happen to be villains. It's just not fun to me. A good guy is doing good because the bad guy does bad, but the bad guy, you have to explain why they are bad, right, and why they do what they do. So, yeah, I mean, it's what I love to do, and that's. I'll keep reading for those ones. If they have good guys that are cool characters, I'll do it.
There you go.
So,
What's your favorite super villain? And it can't be you.
well done. Joker is my favorite super villain. He's a cool character because he's not just bad just for the fun. He's actually bad inside out. He's really deceptive and deceiving the internet, and I like him more of I'm bad because I am born very bad. I love it. So yeah, Joker's my fun. He's fun too.
Okay, you can't ask your question until you flutter your wings.
And you can ask your questions.
I tried. How is it like working with Jared and Jensen from Supernatural?
They're really cool. I'm 6'1", and I'm usually the tall guy on set, and they both tower over me, and it's crazy. But I get to beat up Jensen in Supernatural, and they're cool because they're always joking around on set. I mean, they hate when I say it. They fart all the time on set. They'll fart and then they'll walk away and they'll start telling the crew that you farted and stuff. And this one time with Jensen, actually, it was funny. We filmed a scene where I throw him across the road through a table, and he actually got kind of hurt. So to get me back, he goes to me, he goes, Chad, you got to check out that tape. And in the back, they have a little monitor, little black room. It's a curtained room, so it's really dark, and it's this bright monitor where you can see it. So I was like, well, yeah, I'll go check it. So I went back there, and all of a sudden I'm blinded with this bright light, and that bastard's sitting in front of the camera with a flashlight and shining at me just to get me back. So they're really cool guys. They're literally, a lot of times you meet these people that you watch on TV, and they're just not the nicest people you would hope that they are. Jensen and Jared, both, for the amount of success that those guys have, they're crazy for the end. Yeah, they to me deserve what they got. So, yeah.
Great. Performing as an actor is hard work. You sound like you're having a hell of a lot of fun.
I've been doing it for 15 years now, so there was a lot of years in there that I did not have so much fun.
Little kid when you started?
No, man, I'm 32 years old, so I just get to play a lot of 21-year-olds. months.
Well, Chad, I appreciate your comments, and you're a fine gentleman.
Thank you all. I
And,
appreciate it.